Good evening, everyone. Welcome back from summer break. Let's start our August 12th regular board meeting and a special budget hearing for the Wenatchee School District with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Just for roll check, our fearless leader is joining us remotely from across the country, mind you. Hi, Tucker. We will now work through the agenda. Board, are there any proposed changes to the or modifications to the agenda? Hearing none. I will now move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda, the items on the consent agenda were sent to the board and posted online last week. The board has had the opportunity to review the materials and ask the superintendent any questions they have about any item on the consent agenda. The consent agenda for this meeting includes the regular meeting minutes for June 24th, vouchers and payroll, personnel report, surplus report, contracts, and the May financial report. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, Julie.
I second Julie's motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Martin. Any discussion? All right. Hearing none, all in favor of adopting the consent agenda as presented, say aye.
Aye.
None opposed, so the motion carries. We will now move into the citizen comments. Kim, do we have any online? Okay. Here, given that we don't have any, we're going to move right along into our board budget hearing. The district has completed its 25-26 budget and four-year projections and published a notice of this budget hearing in accordance with RCW 28A 505050. The budget is on file at the district administrative office and a copy is available to anyone requesting one. It is also available online on the district website. The board of directors has set August 26th of 2025 as the date for adopting the 25-26 budget. Any person may appear at the public hearing and be heard for or against any part of the budget. Sean Fitzgerald, Executive Director of Business and Finance, will provide a brief overview of the 25-26 budget. Then the budget hearing will be open for public comment.
All right, Sean, we'll welcome you to the podium and thank you for running us through the budget update for today. And yeah, we're good to go.
One small correction. I don't know about brief, but I will try to be brisk. Yes. All right. President Jackson, members of the board, and Dr. Callahar, it's great to be here tonight to present on the 25-26 budget. Oh. Technical difficulties. All right. So familiar slides. A lot of what you've seen here, well, you will see here tonight is very similar to what was presented at the June 24th board meeting with the preliminary budget. However, I will highlight the differences and any changes that may have occurred between now and then. As we're familiar with, district operates under a fund structure on a fund basis, and we're organized under 5 funds: general, capital projects, debt service, ASB, and transportation. And each fund is its own self-balancing set of accounts that is designed to achieve a certain, carry on specific activities or obtain certain objectives. We're looking at the general fund, makes up about 87% of the budget, and the remaining makes about 13%. In the last couple of years, generally, the general fund has been 90 to 91%. However, capital projects has taken on a greater role in the last year or two, just due to the grant funding we have received for the Skills Center. First, we're going to start off with enrollment. Looking at district birth rates, again, a slide you are familiar with, dating back to our birth rates both for Chelan County and the Wenatchee School District area all the way back to 2014. The difference between now and our June board meeting is we have our 2024 birth data. So shout out to Marcy Horner with MGT Consulting, getting that from the State Department of Health. So that's really nice data to have going into the next school year, and that helps us update our projections and to be better prepared for what's coming. So we can see here when we're looking at our birth rates, generally there's a correlation between our incoming kindergarten classes and our birth rates. We start with, and then we work 5 years back from the current year. So if we're looking at, for example, the 2024-25 school year, that's based on 2019 birth years because we're assuming 5-year-olds are coming in to our kindergarten classes. So one of the biggest things we're highlighting for the incoming kindergarten class is the drop of 71 births from 2019 to 2020. We're seeing there just in the bottom line, 572 to 501. We can directly attribute that during the COVID pandemic. And then we see that continuing decline, not as much decline between 2020 and 2023, but still a decline in birth rates. And now with the 2024 birth data, we're seeing an increase in birth rates, which is a nice sign to see. Whether that is a future trend remains to be seen, but it's nice to see an increase in birth rates after so long of a decrease. But our focus using this birth data in the next couple of slides, we'll kind of look at our forecasting and seeing how this impacts both our incoming kindergarten classes and overall enrollment. Here where we're finishing off for this year, again, another familiar slide. 2024-25 data has been updated with our July enrollment data. So now we're including our summer school. We're finishing at roughly around 6553. So not much change from June. I think I had 6550 for June. So we have a change of 3 FTE. But between 23-24 and our current school year, a decline of about 205 FTE. Our enrollment in 2015-16 was 7655. So that's overall looking at a decline from our peak enrollment in 15-16 over 1100 FTE over the last 10 fiscal years. So here's our updated budgeted enrollment and forecast. So 2024-25 data is based on our July 2025 enrollment with the summer school data excluded, just for comparison purposes for 25-26 budget and the forecasting years. As you can see, I've also added on, now that we have the 2024 birth rates, I've also gone ahead and added a 2029-30 forecast incorporating that data. So as we can see with the declining birth rates and how that's impacting our kindergarten classes, we're looking at currently we have 435 FTE for kindergarten. Our expectation is that's probably going to decline down to roughly about 401 FTE, and then a continuing decrease over the next up until 28-29 down to 386 with those continuing declining of birth rates, and then an uptick in 29-30 reflecting the increase in birth rates. And then, of course, when we're looking at our overall trends down below, difference between 25-26 and 24-25 is roughly a decline of about 109 FTE. So again, the combination of smaller birth rates leads to smaller incoming classes. And again, that continuation of larger graduating classes, we have 499 for 12th grade for 25-26 compared to 401. Again, that's a difference of almost 98 FTE, is also kind of contributing to the overall decline as well. So just kind of jumping back, some of the analysis that we're looking at in our enrollment is overall projection will continue to decline, but Valley Academy may mitigate. So one of the things with Valley Academy is we're seeing an increased demand, large registration numbers, but we want to be kind of conservative with our budget, just in case those numbers don't materialize. So we are excited to see what our enrollment numbers will be for Valley Academy in the fall, but keeping a conservative approach at this time. Transition to kindergarten, going back as discussed in June. TK for 24-25, we had 60 students, but then we're forecasting out 59 for the next 5 years. Just following the state legislature, they've capped our enrollment at 24-25 levels and then rounded down because we didn't quite reach 60. We were at 59.85 FTE, and then instead of rounding up, they decided to round down. So we're funded for 59 students going in for next year, but we will have 60 students in our TK programs across 4 classrooms. And again, we're just assuming that's going to stay the same for the foreseeable future. Elementary classes, as discussed, graduating classes larger than projected kindergarten classes. Birth rates dropping by 71 from 2019 to 2020, but birth rates increasing in 2024, which are impacting and increasing our 29-30 enrollment at the kindergarten level. Middle schools, again, charter and private schools offerings have an impact there. Pinnacles Prep is very popular during the transition between elementary and middle school. However, at the high school level, we still see an increase of kids returning from charter and private schools at the high school level. And we're going to pay close attention to our ninth grade enrollment. Again, we want to be conservative in our budget, but we're going to pay close attention to our 9th grade enrollment levels and see where those kids are coming from at the start of the school year. Running start, smaller registration numbers compared to 24-25. We had record registration in our running start. I mean, we had 335 last year, finishing in July. For 25-26, budgeting down to more 290. So again, another area we're going to take a close look at, but again, registration numbers were significantly less than last year. And then again, paying close attention to alternative learning and Valley Academy enrollment in the fall. Any questions on enrollment? All right.
Sean, are we seeing any projected changes in the initiative for college and the high school, or are we still kind of seeing how that's going to play out?
We're kind of seeing where that's going to play out. Yeah. Transportation vehicle. Again, the purpose of the transportation vehicle fund is the purchase and maintenance of yellow school buses. And again, our primary source of funding is depreciation reimbursement, which we receive at the end of each school year. So end of August, we receive our reimbursement from the state. And then again, expenditures are recorded not when buses are purchased, but when they are delivered. And again, this fund makes up about 0.5% of our budget, overall budget. So again, no significant changes from June on our transportation vehicle fund. We have 3 buses arriving in this September, and we will not be reimbursed until the end of August. So what we're going to do to cover the purchase of these 3 school buses is do a temporary transfer from the general fund to cover the cost to pay for the buses. And as soon as we are reimbursed at the end of the school year, we will return that $150,000 back to the general fund. ASB. So again, ASB fund, cultural, social, recreational, or athletic in nature, it's student-led, and it's optional non-credit extracurricular events. The funds here are legally restricted, so they can only be used for only ASB purposes. They can't be transferred to the general fund or debt service or to pay for a yellow school bus. They are strictly for ASB purposes only and makes up about 1% of the budget. So here we have our 25-26 budget. Again, no changes to the budget or forecast from the June presentation. Overall, although we're showing a decline in fund balance on a year-to-year basis. My expectation is that this will not be the reality. We've seen our ASB activity grow exponentially since even before the pandemic lockdowns, but since returning to school, pandemic restrictions have been lifted, we've seen increasing revenue and expenditure activity year to year. I know during our last board meeting, we were talking about reflecting on whether ASB activity has decreased. But looking at the numbers, although 24-25 numbers may not reach, probably 23-24 has been our best numbers since before the lockdown, followed by 24-25, but just not quite reaching the same levels. So ASB activity looks kind of consistent, and although it may not reach the 23-24 levels, it's still, in comparison to prior years, higher revenues, higher expenditures, much more activity. Debt service, again, used the principal to pay off our debt service. We have one outstanding bond paying off the principal and interest to that bond, which expires in 2033. Last year, we refinanced this one bond. So for the remaining 8 or 9 years of its life, saving taxpayers about $6.6 million over the course of that time. And the debt service makes up about 4% of our budget. Looking ahead for both 25, 26 and beyond, again, no changes, significant changes from our June presentation. But again, looking at less levy collections or bond collections in this place to pay off principal and interest, just because we have strong investment interest earnings and strong fund balance. So the goal, just kind of moving forward, is just kind of drawing down on those fund balance reserves slowly. And then, when the time comes and we pass a bond, we're going to use the fund balance to structure bond debt payments effectively. And that's going to help with in crafting tax rates. We'll be working with Piper Sandler, in those cases, and looking at using that fund balance to kind of craft an even tax rate and strategize on those levels. Capital projects, again, purpose and background, generally financed from the proceeds of sales of bonds, state matching revenues, and special levies. Here we have our grant funding making up about 12% of the budget. Again, no significant changes from the June presentation. We've kind of outlined some of our possible projects we're looking at for this year. So 25, 26 maintenance projects, boilers and controllers at Foothills, and perhaps looking at the elevator, replacing the elevator at the district office. Again, none of these projects are set in stone, but these are ideas that we are looking at for 25, 26. Primarily, these would be funded from a $500,000 transfer from the general fund. This is what we did for the 24-25 school year to accomplish some preventative maintenance and emergency maintenance projects, which was very beneficial throughout the district. Our largest expenditure is at the Skills Center grant. Again, budgeting $12 million. We have a $14.5 million grant from the state. This project is 100% state grant funded. And again, we've put it in the 25, 26 and the 26, 27 years because that's where the funds are allocated and where the grant is. It's over that 2-year period. So that's where the focus of the budget will be. Whether we'll actually spend, $12 million this year or will be spread more evenly across the 2 years kind of remains to be seen. But we have selected our project manager, we have selected our contractor and our architects, so they are proceeding accordingly with the renovation. Any questions on any of those funds before moving on to the general fund? All right. So again, the general fund is really accounting for everything that's not happening in the other funds. So any ordinary, normal, and recurring operations during the school year. So here's a breakdown of our 25-26 budget revenues. So overall, our total revenues, $133.5 million. Again, if we're looking at our state revenues, both general and special purpose, if we add those together, it makes up about 74% of our budget, which is on par with what generally the state average is about 75%. And again, state revenues are primarily driven by enrollment. So we can see the importance of our enrollment is related to our funding revenues. Followed by federal special purpose. So this category is made up of our title programs, LAP, bilingual. We'll be paying close attention, although we were paying close attention to it in July. This will be the area that will be most impacted if there are any federal funding cuts in the upcoming federal budget. And this is the revenue source we'll be paying most close attention to in the fall when the federal government completes its budget. Local taxes,
Sean, can I jump in here real quick?
Go ahead, Tucker.
So I see that, that's 12.3% for our federal financing right now. And I know that we had in July, we had 2.1% kind of floating around as where we're going to be. Are we worried about additional cuts? I realize no one really knows anything, but is that something that's kind of on your radar that 2.1% could change to more, knowing that 12.3 is our total federal budget or federal funds?
Yeah, so for the 25-26 school year, we are not concerned at this time. That was kind of what was occurring and what we were planning during July. But we've been assured by OSPI that the funds have been released and we will receive those funds for the 25-26 school year. Moving forward, though, our concern now is for the 26-27 school year and beyond. And so right now we're waiting for the federal government is in their budget process right now because of their fiscal year begins in October. Again, like our state legislature, they build on a 2-year biennium budget. So what we're looking at is when they complete their budget, will there be funding for these programs for 26, 27 and beyond? Okay.
So I guess more of a question is that I think the concern obviously is that we're not going to have the funds that we in July where we were going to have for 25, 26. We probably won't have those in 26, 27. Are we worried about additional cuts as well?
There's the possibility.
Sure.
At the level of the 2.1%, we're not seeing that. If there
Okay.
are cuts, it would be much less than that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think something to add on, we'll return to this as well with the federal spending, but I think another issue is not only the fact that funding could be just cut through the budget process at the federal government level, is the fact that there are still a lot of federal grants out there that are being funded. However, the share of the overall pie is shrinking, and the competitiveness of obtaining these grants are becoming more difficult as more school districts are looking at trying to obtain the same grants because they're looking for funding as well. So we can't take for granted that federal grants that we have received in the past on a consistent basis, we may not be able to receive them just due to the demand and the applications and the competitive nature of these grants, with so many other school districts looking for funding as well. And then moving down along next line item, local taxes, 15.7 million, again, almost 12% of the budget. Vast majority of local taxes, that is our EP&O levy. And then rounding out the remaining, 1.5% is, local support non-tax. Those are kind of fees and charges and, things that we kind of trickle in across the school year. Other financing sources, $150,000, that would be the return of the money from the transportation vehicle fund, and then just a smaller miscellaneous amounts making up the remaining categories that make up about less than 1%. Expenditures. So again, regular instruction, 44% of our budget. So BEA, our basic ed, alternative learning, and open doors, come in about 59.7 million, so making up almost half the budget. That's followed significantly behind at 16%, which is our support services or district-wide support. So in that category, we have maintenance and operations, food services, transportation, district office, anything else that doesn't fall in those particular categories listed up there. Followed closely behind by special education at 15% or 20 million. And again, highlighting compensatory education, 15.2 million or 11% of our budget. Again, this is where we're budgeting our title programs, lab, bilingual. These are the programs we're looking at. Again, as previously mentioned with Tucker is, this is the area we're paying most attention to for 26, 27 beyond. Because if there's no funding in these areas, we would have to reduce at the expenditure level at this line item. Vocational education, this is where our CTE program is, so making up about 8% of our budget. Other instructional programs, a lot of this is capacity. So capacity is put in here, but it's also our additional budget capacity. But also you'll find AVID, highly capable. Some of our smaller grant programs are in here as well. Skill Center following along at 2%. Then we have other financing uses or transfers out. So again, $650,000. So the breakout of that, $500,000 transfer to the capital projects for maintenance, and then $150,000 to the transportation vehicle fund. Here's looking at appropriations from just a different perspective. Whereas the previous slide was based on program, here's, we call it our object code. That's how it's broken out in the accounting manual, but here it's more salaries and benefits and MSOC, or materials, supplies, and operating costs. So again, we can see the bulk of our budget is related to salaries and benefits, over 80%. If we removed capacity from the budget, that would probably increase it to about 83% of the overall budget as well. Again, if we're looking at transfers out, again, that's 650,000, only about 0.5% of the overall budget. And then if we're looking at travel or capital outlay for additional equipment or vehicle purchases, both of those are less than 0.5% of our overall budget. Looking at the overall budget and forecast. So here we see an increase. We're looking at fund balance of 13.6 million to start off with, and then a decrease of about 2.5. So expenditures are going to exceed revenues roughly by about 2.5 million. That would take us down to 11.1 million. And then looking at the future years, based on both, again, the increase in revenues due to the EP&O levy combined with budget reductions, that would put us for 26, 27, roughly about $238,000 change in fund balance. So again, we see that gap shrinking significantly between revenues and expenditures between 25, 26 and 26, 27. But when we get to 28, 29, again, we're seeing the increase in, again, expenditures start exceeding revenues. And again, that's just inflation catching up to our revenue sources. So we are locked, we've passed our 4-year levy. We are locked in for that amount. That amount is not adjusted for inflation, but expenditures operate on an inflationary basis. So it's like we get this reprieve, we close the gap, but then it starts to widen overall as the years go by. Another highlight is focusing on the minimum fund balance. We've had discussion about increasing from 5% to 6%. Looking at the overall, when completing them between June and August, looking at the numbers, we saw, beginning fund balance, I was looking at kind of starting off at 13.8, kind of revised that down to 13.6. We received so it was about a $200,000 adjustment revision down. And that was due to one, we received $150,000 less in safety net funding than we budgeted. And then there were some minor adjustments, just aligning kind of miscellaneous grants, revenues, and expenditures was about additional $50,000. So taking that down another $200,000, and then looking at our original proposal, the preliminary budget had about a $2.1 million decrease. That's increased up to 2.5. So right now, just kind of looking at the overall budget, kind of want to take a wait and see approach in the fall, see how enrollment numbers come in, see how assessed value numbers come in, and then we can revisit this, the matter of increasing the minimum fund balance from 5 to 6%. Because if we were looking at the additional breakdown, if we take minimum fund balance, that's 6.7 plus that unassigned, that's about 6.3% right there. And then as we go from year to year, we can see, we know when we increase 5 to 6%, it's about 1.3 to 1.4 million. So as we see like 27, 28 or 28, 29, we're looking at, oh, if we increase the minimum fund balance, additional reductions are going to be necessary in order to maintain that. So again, going to wait for the fall, kind of see where the numbers play out and kind of revisit this matter. But for budgetary purposes, we're sticking with the 5%. Assumptions and methodology. So again, continued enrollment decline projected, but we want to pay close attention to the Valley Academy numbers and how that will impact. Federal funding uncertainty. We're going to be paying close attention to the federal budget process. I have, again, better answers in October, seeing how this is going to affect 26-27 funding and beyond. Local effort assistance, again, fluctuates annually. We don't have a crystal ball. And we got to pay close attention to the impact of assessed value and enrollment on our funding. So as assessed value increases and enrollment decreases, we lose funding. So we want to pay close attention to that. We're also operating under the assumption, when we say no significant state legislative funding efforts, I mean, our expectation is operating under the assumption that there's not going to be a state bailout or a massive increase in funding come the spring. We just got to operate with what we have. And, you know, if there's additional funding, then it's a windfall, but we want to be conservative here. Budget reductions, again, year to year, as we have declining enrollment, we want to align staffing to enrollment. And so that will be, as we see declining enrollment, we'll be doing that on a continuing annual basis. Inflationary factors, IPD is 2.5%. Again, like the state funding, like the state legislative funding efforts, we don't know what the state decides what our inflationary measure will be next year. So it could be 2.5, it could be 3.2. We'll just have to wait and see, but the number is 2.5, and that's what we're operating on. And again, we also budget for 100% staffing. Again, we want a conservative budget, even though there's turnover throughout the year or, you know, staff isn't fully employed. Throughout the whole school year, we operate under the assumption that we are fully staffed from September through August. And then another thing we're looking at is K-3 class size compliance. So again, we receive additional funding on smaller class sizes, although the state doesn't look at individual classes. They look at your kind of aggregate whole enrollment versus your staffing at the K-3 level. So as enrollment declines there and we look at our staffing, you know, we may receive increased funding just with the decline at the K-3 level. MSOC disclosure as part of RCW 28505. This is a required slide to be disclosed at the board meeting, and essentially showing the state MSOC funding versus what we're actually proposed to spend for MSOC, and ensuring that we're allocating all MSOC funding that we receive from the state for MSOC purposes. So here we have almost $10.4 million in state MSOC funding, and district proposed to spend for MSOC, which would be state MSOC, would be 13.5. So we have a difference of $3.1 million. So since we anticipate spending more than what we've received, we're in compliance with this RCW. Wrapping up with fund balance. Again, fund balance is the district reserves or savings accounts, and not everything in the fund balance reserves can be used at any time. Here is our breakout of our beginning and ending 25-26 fund balance. So we have our restricted amounts for carryover, skill center and food services. These cannot be used for any other purpose but these areas. Followed by non-spendable, which is inventory and prepaid items, again, kind of related to food services. Then we have our committed fund balance. This includes our transfers for the transportation vehicle fund and capital projects, and also additional funding remaining to offsetting future budget reductions. And then we have our unassigned and unassigned minimum fund balance there as well. So we can see the increases, the differences between the beginning and ending will ultimately impact at the expectation is it'll impact only at the committed level and at the unassigned level. So we see that decrease of roughly about 2.5 million, and that would come from both the committed and the unassigned fund balance reserves. Any questions on fund balance? All right. Last but not least, budget timeline. So we're at August 12th. We've had our public hearing, and then we'll have the adoption on August 26th, which will be plenty of time to for Dr. Kalahar to sign or for the board to approve, and then Dr. Kalahar to certify and submit to OSPI by August 31st. Any other questions?
I do have one, Sean. We've gone through in July the ESD review. Was there anything interesting in their feedback?
I think their feedback was expected. I think they were seeing they shared the same concerns things that we're seeing. So I think the large thing is like, again, paying attention to our fund balance reserves. We are drawing down $2.5 million projected for this year. That's no small matter. They're also concerned they want to make sure we had a plan in place, especially during July for the Federal Reserve, whether we're going to receive the federal funding or not. Also wanting us to pay close attention to our K-3 class size compliance as well. Those were kind of the big three things that jumped out to me. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Sean. Just want to give Sean and his team a shout out. This is a lot of work that leads up to today, the budget hearing, and then obviously the things that are necessary afterwards with the approval from the board and then sending it off to OSPI. I was just chatting with Sean at probably about 5:30, and it's like this is kind of a crescendo for him on the year when it comes to budget and the work that he's done to take all of the inputs that come into the district and use those to really drive the budget and help the budget, be where it is right now. I think the stability that we have is greatly appreciated. And I know our community and our school board and our staff appreciate that too. So thanks, Sean.
Thank you for formalities of the budget hearing and to acknowledge Jenny's presence here. The 2025 budget hearing is now open for public comments. If you haven't already submitted a public comment form, please do so now and give it to Kim. Following comments, Dr. Kalahar or Mr. Fitzgerald will have an opportunity to reply. Kim, do we have any online comments? Okay, hearing none, the budget hearing is now closed. So now back to our regular board meeting. Our next order of business is our action items. Today we have two action items. We will start with the collective bargaining agreement for the PSC Wenatchee bus driver.
Excellent. Yeah, just a quick summary there. The Wenatchee School District has concluded negotiations with our Bus Drivers Association for the agreement that expires on August 30th, 2025. We are seeking the board's approval of this contract at this board meeting, August 12th, 2025. All of you have had a chance to review a copy of the completed contract with the agreed upon changes.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the CBA as presented?
Move to approve the collective bargaining agreement between Wenatchee School District 246 and the public school employees of Wenatchee bus drivers for September 25 through August 28.
Thank you, Julie.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Julie and a second by Mark. Any questions or discussion? Shout out to the bargaining team from both ends. If no further questions or discussion, all in favor of adopting the agreement, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next up, we have the resolution 02-25 requesting a waiver of the minimum 180-day school year for grades K through 12.
Excellent. And just a quick summary there is annually, the Wenatchee School District submits a waiver request with OSPI and then further to the State Board of Education for having 3 days for parent-teacher conferences so that we can have a check-in point with parents that is early enough in the school year to allow not only for conversations, but for academics, assessments, intervention, extension, support, and celebrations. So the first part of this process begins with the approval of the resolution here from the board.
Fabulous. Do I hear a motion to approve the adoption of the resolution 0225?
I move to approve resolution 0225, the request of a waiver of the minimum 180-day school year for grades K-12 under WAC 180-18-040.
Thank you, Martin.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Martin and a second by Julie. Any discussion? All right, all in favor of adopting resolution 0225, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, perfect. Motion carries. Moving right along. Our next order of business is the superintendent's report.
Excellent. Thanks, everyone. I just wanted to share a few words about the conversation that we've had here tonight about July. July was intense this year for us to, we had been signaled as school districts and as superintendents that there was going to be a concern about federal funding in 26-27. We knew about that. We had talked about that. We had kind of expected it, but to have the funds not be released on July 1st was very interesting start of July. And then I remember the following July 7th meeting where Superintendent Chris Reitdahl said, you should prepare for your budgets to not receive these funds. And so that led us down the road to spending from July 7th to the July 25th, reducing $2.7 million on paper, theoretically, in our district. And it was very challenging. So I just want to compliment our cabinet team and for our team and special programs. I just think back to Tim Shepard is our state and federal programs director, and he was vacationing in New Orleans. And we had to schedule a couple Zoom meetings between excursions and naps and happy hour or whatever along the way. But we're like, Tim, we got to meet. And then poor Sean is in Nebraska visiting family. And I think we literally had 4 1-hour meetings in 4 days in a row. But we had to do that work, right? Because that's what's happening. So it was a very unprecedented July. And I just wanted to share that experience with not only the board, but the community, because we're doing the right thing for our fiscal responsibility. And then the funds were released on the 25th of July, which kind of concluded that 15-day or I guess 18-day chaos. But we do still need to think thoughtfully about what next year brings. That's still, as we talked about, 2.1% of our budget or equaling $2.7 million this year, whatever that equates to next year. But just doing that due diligence is very important. The exercises and the practices that we went through will be hugely beneficial for us in our planning this spring. So anyway, on to more positive things. Before I leave that topic, I do want to add that this was a statewide and a national issue and concern. It was not just the Wenatchee School District. Any school district that relies on title funding, we're in the same position during this July. And so we networked with Quincy and with East Wenatchee and some of the other places as thought partners to do some of that work. So but we do have some exciting things that I'd love to talk about. Number one, we have a board workshop on Monday where we're going to talk about the Wenatchee School District Facilities Committee report that was delivered on June 24th. And ideas and thoughts around a new Wenatchee High School and some additional HVAC units across the district. So I'm excited about that work. We also have August 19th. Next Tuesday is our district opening day. So all of our board members are obviously invited to Wenatchee High School. 7:30 starts our community fair. 8:30 starts the Welcome Back Assembly. And we've got a great program for you. And we are starting what hopefully becomes a new tradition. We're giving out some community partnership awards that morning. So we're excited about that. And then, of course, a week after that, school starts. So we do have another board meeting in between there on the 26th, but the 27th is the big day. So we're all getting very excited, and that's plenty for the superintendent's report. Thanks, everyone.
All right, board communications. I'm going to go to my right. Mark?
I just finished up the short Shakespearean's play with Music Theater of Wenatchee, and it was great to see a number of Wenatchee School District students there. And they're all excited about the upcoming production that they'll be putting on this fall.
Well, I visited the final day of summer school. A lot of planning went into this year's program. Timetable and transport designed to fit family needs, such as a middle school program and an optional extended day to 3 p.m. Successful recruitment and planning to boost actual attendance to about 200. I saw enthusiasm and very impressive learning in science, math, and English language, and also formidable intervention that generated catch-up improvement in writing. My term on the State Migrant Education Committee ended at the end of June. For 6 years, as a Wenatchee board member, I have volunteered support to multicultural and migrant education and after-school programs. All of these, plus summer school, were targets of the federal executive's announced intention at the beginning of July to withhold congressionally budgeted and approved 25-26 funds from 5 civil rights programs that included these and summer school, $6.8 billion nationally, and an estimated $2.9 million from Wenatchee School District. I am highly grateful that at the end of July, after bipartisan opposition from many U.S. senators, a 25-26 funding was distributed so that at today's budget hearing, we look at a 25-26 budget that is similar to June's preliminary plan. These civil rights programs remain existing law, but law for which Congress is in the process of choosing not to authorize expenditure in the 26-27 budget. These next comments are personal from one board member speaking as an individual. It's my take on things. I have always held the oath of office to be my duty compass, to support the constitutions of the United States and the state of Washington, and to promote the interests of education. I bring motive and a mindset that we occupy a shared world. What we owe each other is a phrase that reminds us that there are stages, circumstances, and times in our lives when we receive from others, and also times when we are the givers. I have publicly said that a mutual benefit approach always creates the greatest total combined well-being and will be superior. Applying development economist knowledge objectively, my opinion is that defunding these civil rights programs is harmful, nationally and locally, to education and to the economy, and to the social health of communities. I hope that civic and business leaders and the officials we elect will recognize this and find the moral courage to advocate for the programs and the students and the communities that they serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Julie? Make me go after that.
Jeez. Everything Martin said. No, I just want to thank the district for keeping families in the loop with the communication. I feel like sometimes we go into summer and we don't hear anything until the week before school starts. And I think a really intentional, good job has been done from the minute school was over through the summer, just reminding of the federal funding issues and letting us know that it had been restored. So taking some of the nervousness off families in the district, but also some of these getting back into school communications that I've already started getting have been very helpful. Although they burst my bubble that summer's almost over. It is really great to get the notices from the high school about activities and things coming back in and how to be prepared for the school year. And I feel like the platform we're using now is you can look at it if you want. It's a little bit more user-friendly and helpful. So I appreciate that from a parent and community perspective. Excited for the school year to start, excited to get the spring activities or fall activities going. Jeez. It's been a long summer. And just a reminder, we've got a lot of students that'll be showing animals and livestock and things in 4-H at the Waterville Fair coming up, which is before our next meeting. So I put it out there, and then Chelan County's right after that, after school starts. So get up to see the fair, support some of your FAA kids and 4-H kids and anyone else that's looking for something fun to do this summer.
That's better, Julie. Good.
Tucker.
Thank you. I'm glad I did Julie took the bill up for me. I didn't have to follow Martin directly. I wanted to say thank you to the Corey and the cabinet and the special programs team, because I know that July was really hectic, guys, and that was supposed to be your break, and it turned out being, far busier than expected. And I think that, having done that work, hopefully we'll see that funding in 26, 27, but if not, you did a lot of the prep. So hopefully next July you'll have a little extra time. And Maria, thanks for running the meeting for me, because it would have been really hard to do that via Zoom.
Not a problem. I'm gonna echo with Julie and Tucker said about keeping the communication lines open about, the funding situation. And as we go into the new academic year, just like Martin said in this last couple paragraphs there, as from a personal perspective and opinion, I fully support what Martin said. And I do hope that our representatives at the local, state, federal level see the impact that potential budget cuts will cost, especially on our protected status student communities. Anything else for the good of the order? All right, hearing none, it's 6:51. This meeting's adjourned.